Hi, Dave Youngquist, Michigan Toy Soldier. Welcome to part 7 of painting the Red Baron. Today we're going to be working on painting the Baron's black leather jacket and his field cap. When painting the leather jacket, we're going to be using the Andrea black paint set, and I'm going to be starting with a base coat of Andrea color number 4, black color number 4. I've taken the liberty, once again, to save a bit of time, of base coating the leather jacket. So that's where we're at now. Now it's time to start with number 6, the darkest shadow in the box. Be very careful when applying the base coat number 4, Andrea black color number 4, to the figure, especially when you're working around the area that the jacket meets the tunic. It's pretty tight in there, and you really got to take your time to make sure you don't slop any of the black paint and all the hard work we've accomplished on the tunic itself. So starting with number 6, which is the darkest tone in their paint pack, in the black paint pack, we're going to lay in our darkest shadows. Now there's a very prominent seam on the leather jacket itself, and you want to lay the color into that. And you'll notice all the puckering of the leather jacket, and go ahead and lay that black color in there. Just a real light touch. Paint right now is about medium consistency, not as watery as we've used it in the past. And this step's going to take a while, so take your time and just go over all the little creases and puckers. Now that we've got the seam in the coat and all the little pucker marks outlined with black, we're going to get a bit more of the number 6 color, and now we go back to the usual thin mixture, and we're going to lay in our darkest shadows on the jacket itself. Get in all the deep creases. We want to work around, you can see in this area, everywhere where the sun's not going to be hitting at the 12 o'clock position. And of course, underneath the collar is going to be fairly dark, so we just get that blocked in. Now when this step is done, which it will be shortly, we want to add color number 5, which is a transitional color between our darkest color number 6 and the start of our highlight colors. This color we want to lay in right next to the number 6 color, and again, keeping the paint thin will give us a real nice transition to our highlights. Now that we've got our shadow colors applied, we want to go to the highlights. I'm going to start with color number 3, which is a bit lighter, and a little bit of number 2. We're going to put them on the palette at the same time so we can kind of jump back and forth. And if we find that the color gets a bit too lighter, has a bit too much contrast, we can go back to our base color number 4 and add that into the mix. So for this, we want to carefully highlight the little puckers that we put in, and the way to do that is by adding just a little bit of the paint underneath the shadow, or that black number 6 that we've applied. This will give it the appearance of light hitting the edge of the jacket. Take your time, small little dashes here. I'm going to outline the buttonhole. Okay, now that we've finished the shadows, we want to put in some of the highlights. I'm using color number 3 and color number 2 from the Andrea black set. And if we find that these colors are a bit light, I'm going to add just a bit of the number 4 also into the mix, just to tone it down so we don't have so much contrast. Begin with painting the tops of the pucker marks, and the way to do that is wherever you painted that little black line in, we want to go right underneath it and apply a bit of this highlight color. we'll outline the buttonholes. There's two of them here. There we go. And the neat effect we're going to get is from applying the highlight color right next to the shadow line. The final step in highlighting the leather jacket is to take color number 3, dilute it down, and just make sure you do just the very tops of the shoulders and the jacket. Again, using the 12 o'clock light position, we want just the tops to have a little bit more pop. Now that the leather jacket is finished, we want to begin painting the field cap. I've base coated the field cap, the cloth part of the field cap, with Vallejo number 338, which is a highlight color from the Panzer Aces set, and Andrea NAC04 from the regular line of Andrea paints. The red band of the Baron's cap is going to be painted with Andrea color number 1 from the red paint set, and the brim of the cap we're using number 6 from the Andrea black set, and we're going to put a glass coat on it. Let's get started. Painting the field cap, we're going to use a mixture of Vallejo and Andrea color to get a nice base. And as I mentioned earlier, I've already base coated it once, but we're going to go over it just again briefly. And as always, we start with our shadows. I'm going to be using Andrea NC04 for our shadow color. And again, where this gets applied is there's some natural shadow points, and we want to go underneath the brim of the cap using our 12 o'clock method, once again, or signpost method, and get those shadows applied. Okay, using our Andrea field gray color and keeping the mixture thin once again, we have to paint some of the shadows into the soft undulations of the cap. And we also want to paint a shadow line around the trim that we'll be painting a bit later in a red color. Now that the shadows are painted, we're going to use the Panzer Ace color, which is the field gray highlight, to apply our highlights. Take your time here. And when we're finished with this step, we're going to do all the highlighting and shading on the red band and on the trim. Now that we've got the shadows finished on the cap, we're going to do the highlights. We're going to be using the Panzer Aces Field Gray highlight, and we're going to lay that color in, keeping the paint very thin as we always want to do on highlights. Taking our time with the top of the cap. The top of the cap is a bit more difficult to paint because you need to have really smooth transitions between your highlights and your shadows. Finally, on the cap, there is a thin band of material separating the brim of the cap from the band of the cap. And again, use your field gray Panzer Aces color to apply that. Now, painting the band of the cap, we base coated it with the Andrea color number 1 from the red set. And now we're just going to apply color number 5, which is the shadow color, to that area next to the band. Lay it in really thin. It's just going to give us a bit more contrast, and will allow our final highlights on the red band to really pop. We'll put a little bit around some of the detail work, which we'll explain in the next segment. Now, using color number 4, which is a very light red, it's almost a scarlet, we want to apply some of the highlights to the band. And I'd recommend keeping these just at the very front. I wouldn't go around the sides with this color. And this will make the front of it really, really pop out. Now finally, on the cap, we need to paint the red trim that surrounds the cap, and we're going to use base color number 1 for that. After painting the piping or the trim on the cap, I went over it with Andrea color number 4 to give it just a little extra highlight. Stay tuned for our next episode when we complete the painting of the Baron. We'll be painting the Iron Cross, Blue Max, and all the other details. Be sure to visit us at mishtoy.com. See you soon.